Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Comic Crack. It's Sunday, 10 p.m. And I'm here for a kind of look at the stack of stuff I read this week and to talk about a couple of things that came in the mail. So we had a chat this afternoon, Rasa and myself. So if you want to go and check that out, it's on my channel. Go and have a listen to what we were yakking about. But for those who don't want to sit, those are generally like longer conversations. For those of you who might not want to just scroll through to hear the comic reviews, this is the condensed version, which never really is condensed. I yammer on a lot, but here we go. So, man, I'm smooth. So a couple of things I've been listening to recently. I got a stack of tapes in from Transylvanian recordings. And if you can see, if you know, that top album is the one that I was going for. Huge fan of NOOTHGRUSH for a long time. I think one of the first recordings I heard of NOOTHGRUSH was probably the split that they did with Japanese band Corrupted, and then started digging more into their music. I think I've got a couple of 7-inches from them as well. But this is a reissue of their first release, Kashik, and it's fantastic. Really, really good. So that was the main reason that I went to Transylvanian recordings. And then while I was there, you know, it's always worth it to grab a couple of other things. Death Grave, It's Only Midnight. Beautiful looking tape there. And then what the heck are these guys called? I haven't listened to this one. Like Class Trader, Broken Energy Highway is the name of this album. I haven't listened to this. I just kind of sampled a few things, but I haven't sat and listened to that whole album yet. And then one that they threw in for free, which, holy shit, Dan Elson, if you're watching this on the replay, Swamp Witch, do you know Swamp Witch, Dead Rituals? Holy shit, is this ever good? This is a fucking ridiculously good album. If you like kind of that sludgy music and some killer, looks like it would fit nicely with like Cave Evil kind of art in there. Lyrics on the inside of the J card as well too. Beautiful gold tape. This was a hell of a bonus that they threw in. So thankful they did. Such a good album. 4 punishing tracks. The highlight, as much as I love the NOOTHGRUSH and the other and Death Grave, this one really jumped out at me as an unbelievable listen. So shout out to Transylvanian recordings. I haven't listened to a lot of stuff because my tape decks have been crapping out. So I managed to pull this sucker apart, and I ordered a bunch of belts from this place in China. It just comes with a bag of random size. So I changed the belts on this, cleaned the pots so they're not as crackly, managed to put it back together. And I think I only had, no, I didn't have any screws left on this one. I found out where that one went. So used all the parts and put it back together. So I'm glad to have that going. I'm hoping to fix the Marantz, because that one is a fantastic tape player and it lives. It sits nicely right under my shelf here. So I'm hoping that I can salvage that one, because all of a sudden it crapped out. I got some Marantz belts for it. So I'm hoping that I can make that work. And if I can, this one is going to go to my son. So now that I got the tape deck working, I can sit and listen to some stuff down here again. So in the world of mail calls, some amazing acts of kindness from people. We talked about the MERS box. Colin Blanchette sent me a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to show that off. So those of you who know about Canon, Colin Blanchette and Alex Eklund, I always got to check to make sure I get people's names right. Yes, Alex Eklund, Eklund. And then this was funded and supported by Athenium Comics Art. This is American Cartoonist, the Comic Art of Noah Van Sciver. It's a hardcover collection that they put out. It's sort of like they call it a mid-career retrospective of his comics, covers, sketchbooks, all sorts of things. I know Noah from his YouTube channel. I know some of his comics. I don't have a strong opinion either way. The stuff I've read, I enjoyed. I haven't read a ton of it though. That's the thing. There's a lot out there that I am not familiar with. So this will be great to kind of dip into sampling some more of his work. There's some Blammo covers. Really, really nice job on this book, fellas. Like, it looks fantastic. Yeah, really cool. It's nice to see them jumping into the publishing game a little even deeper. So Colin and Alex had started off with a Canon zine that I was fortunate enough to contribute to. There's a cover that we'll see in a minute. Fortunate enough to contribute to for the first, 4 issues so far. Hoping to contribute to the next one, working on something right now-ish, tomorrow, because I didn't do it today. Tomorrow, Colin, I promise, tomorrow. So really, really cool that they had that going. The other thing that he sent me, very excited about this. I do not have the issue of Comics Journal that this special thick volume summer annual sized Canon. This is Canon Annual 2024, the top 100. So the Comics Journal had a one-off issue where they talked about the 100 best comics of the century. I don't remember what issue number it was. I want to say 200 or something. Scanning, not seeing it right there. But so Colin is a huge fan of that particular issue. He's doing a series of videos now on his channel where he is showing off the books that the cartoonists that get talked about this in that Comics Journal article. He's doing a countdown from 100 down to 1. So based on his love for that, and I'm guessing that it probably introduced him to a bunch of these comics, he's made it kind of one of his collecting goals to collect stuff from that list. So they decided to do a standalone annual where they talk about one issue of the Comics Journal, and it's fucking incredible amount of work that they've done with this. The first thing that I read was the Seth interview and kind of commentary. Seth did the cover on that original Comics Journal issue. Noah Van Sciver did the cover for this one, kind of the homage to it. So they've put in a hell of a lot of work on this single issue of Canon. It's available now from their Big Cartel store, possibly, or maybe it got sold out. Let's have a look here before I steer you wrong. I don't know if you're in the chat there, Colin. I know sometimes you manage to tune in. Temporarily sold out. More copies are on the way. I'll show you the page here. Let's do a screen share. Not that button. This one. Here we go. So if you go to canonzine.bigcartel.com, you can pick up a bunch of Canon issues. So there's issues 3, number 2, the annual, like it says, temporary sold out. Number 4 is the newest issue, and there's number 1. So go and check them out and support Colin in this venture. What started off as, I'm just going to do one issue. I just want to do a zine. Let's just see how it goes, and I'll pump this one out. Quickly grew to, 5 books, plus a hardcover, plus a little mini free zine that we'll talk about in a second here. So he's been doing really, really good work. I've said to Colin in the past that over the years of doing YouTube, there's been a number of people who have come through and said they wanted to do some kind of zine and things, and there's been a couple that I've been asked to kind of contribute to, and it never really kind of sees the light of day, which is fine. It's not a criticism. It's just sometimes it's easy to talk about ideas. It's not easy to follow through with this stuff. It really isn't. I think there's a lot of us that do the YouTube thing who we have careers and jobs outside of the comics world, so it makes it a little different when you're not steeped in it. It does make it challenging at times, depending on who you are. What happens if I push this button? Nothing. Okay. So it's great to see that he put the work in and is actually doing it. And then finally, he sent me the Canon short run supplement issue, a special edition fall 2024 free. And it's just a little kind of preview of what short run is going to have in store for everybody on November the 2nd, Saturday, November 2nd at the Fisher Pavilion at Seattle Center. So this is kind of a little quick mini where they talk to Kelly Froh, who is the organizer. Kelly Froh is the executive director of Short Run. Besides running the festival, she works on related events throughout the year and also makes comics of her own. She's on Instagram as @KEFROH, and you can learn more about the festival at shortrun.org. So a little brief interview with her, and then there's a spotlight on a few artists that are going to be tabling at the festival this year. What caught my attention, Colin had told me about this already, but to see his name in print again is something else. So Alex and Colin each do kind of a one-pager where they talk about some of the things that they're looking forward to, broken down into cartoonists and publishers. Under Colin's cartoonist, things that he's looking for with cartoonist, Tetsunori Tawaraya coming in from the Japans to the Seattle. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. As you know, I'm a huge Tetsunori Tawaraya fan. Big fan of his. So that is a hell of a guest to have. And then there's kind of a list of 4 comic shops while you're visiting. Go and check out these fine comic shops. And then, of course, an ad for Canon. So really nice stuff here. Really great. Congratulations to Colin and Alex. They've been doing some incredible work. And it's just great to have something like this around. I mean, all of us love the print. That's why we all go through these, jump through these hoops to try to get everything. Oh, geez, crashing and trashing the place here, smashing paintings. So it's nice that they've put the energy in and are going through with that. So that was from Colin. Thank you very much. Let's get to this one. Rasa and I exchanged some Christmas gifts. Ours hasn't made it there yet. Because of the delay, it got stuck in the country here, and it only left Canada, I think, might have been close to the end of the year, or it might have even been in the new year. So it's on its trip all the way to her. But her package came for us, or for me, if we want to be honest, came for me. And we'll show that one last. One of the things that she sent me was a whole stack of The Question from Denny O'Neil. So 1988 maybe is when this started. It looks like 1987 is when it started. I think there's one issue missing. She sent me the first 25, and I think issue number 18 is the only one that's missing from the stack. I read issue number 1. She's going to start reading it again as well, too. So we'll talk about it. I'll probably talk about it more next week. This first issue was interesting, had some bits in there that I wasn't quite expecting. There's a real kind of homage to the Spirit, to be honest. There's a big kind of Spirit love going on in here. So I don't know too much about The Question. I have a couple of one-shots. But I do I'm a fan of the kind of magic universe of DC. And you'll see a little bit more of that in a minute here. So I'll just show you a few covers besides taking them out of the bags. So this was a really nice surprise. I've been very curious about this series. Just have never jumped into it. Not because I don't want to. It's just the usual. You can't get everything. So I'm looking forward to this. It'll be fun to read it together and talk about it during the week as well, too. So a big old stack of them. And then the last ones here, 24 and 25. So thank you very much for that, Rasa. That's fucking amazing. And then she also did a little painting for me as well to the Spectre. I was talking to her about it, and she said it is sealed. So it's probably, I made myself a wood, like a little wood shed kind of thing, like a lean-to, not really a shed. It's pretty damn small. We have a barbecue pit, or a fire pit rather, in our yard that I made this summer. Buried it into the patio that we have outside, our COVID project patio. And I built a little wood kind of hut, and it's got a kind of lip on it for the roof. And I'm thinking I'm going to try to get this up there. It would be great to have some art. I don't know if I talked about it on the channel, but I was making these big wooden masks as well. I have one for myself. So I'd like to adorn some of the outdoors with some art. She said she sealed it. I'm probably going to seal it again, and I'm going to look to kind of affix it to that woodshed there. And maybe it's also sparked a couple ideas for me. The masks that I'm making, or the masks that I made, are pretty damn big. They're probably about this big around. I want to try to make some smaller ones. We had all this extra wood, these kind of fence for fencing slats, I guess, and I had made some characters out of that. So I'd like to kind of do some smaller ones and maybe put them up around town and stuff. But maybe some more art for myself as well. So this has sparked a couple of ideas. I love this piece. I love the Spectre, which Rasa is very aware. So that's an amazing little piece of art there. And last but certainly not least, the one and only Thorgal, the Blade Ship. This is issue number 25. It's Rosinski and Sente, maybe is how you pronounce the name, doing writing. So on the back, they also talk about the next issues that are going to be coming out. So originally, this is published in 2019. The English version, the Cinebook version, first published last year. So now they have kind of a list of the next issues that are coming. So we've got one more issue with Rosinski and Sente, and then 27 is Rosinski and Dorison. And then number 28 is Rosinski and Yan. And then 29, 30, and 31 is Yan and a different artist, Vino. So I'm a little, not worried is maybe a strong word, but I mean, Rosinski is such a, Van Ham was such a crucial part of this storytelling, no doubt about it. But honestly, Rosinski's art is really gorgeous, and I've grown to, I mean, I think I loved it right out of the gate, but it's hard for me to imagine another artist doing this work. So I'll be curious to see what happens. Not much to say about this one. It's a good issue. It's not maybe my favorite issue until they get to the wintry, snowy tundra landscape, and then it really picks up. But it's kind of a little bit of a detour from our main storyline. And the only issue that I kind of had with it was that things wrapped up pretty conveniently and pretty quickly in kind of what happens to Thorgal in this story. It was still really enjoyable because, let's be honest, there's really not a bad issue in my estimation of Thorgal. I've loved everything that I've read so far. And again, every time I read this, I say the same thing. If you haven't read Thorgal, if you don't know the character, pick up a book. Just grab any one. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first 6 of them are double size, so they contain 2 stories. There's also an issue 0 that I haven't read yet, and that has 2 stories, or I don't have it yet. That has 2 stories in it as well. And then after that, they're just kind of single stories, so they're a little bit thinner. So, I mean, if you can find any of those first 6, and honestly, you can start anywhere. I think I started with number 4, which is The Archers, and then the second story is Alino. I'm pretty sure that's where I started, And it was a really, really great start into the world. I didn't feel lost. You get introduced to the characters, you kind of figure it out as you go. And then I kind of worked backwards and then forward from there. So, yeah, read any of it. Just pick it up and grab it. So that's it for Rasas. Thank you very much, Rasa. One other thing before we get into the rest of the stack of comics. There was a premiere recently here in Winnipeg of a movie I was fortunate enough to work on when they did their Winnipeg shoot. It's called Universal Language. Matthew Rankin is the director. He also stars in it. It's garnered a lot of amazing attention. I think at Cannes it won the People's Choice Award. Most of it is filmed in Montreal. He's living in Montreal. Born and raised in Winnipeg, so it's kind of it's a very Winnipeg story. If you know Guy Madden's My Winnipeg, I would say that this is now kind of the movie of Winnipeg. It's kind of paired with that as well. He actually gave a talk with Guy Madden yesterday. I didn't have a chance to go and see it, but that would have been interesting to hear their back and forth and stuff. So it was supposed to play 3 nights at our local art house theater, but the theater had plumbing issues, so they had to close it down. The 3 nights turned into a 1-night event, a 1-night premiere at the Franco-Manitoban Center in St. Boniface, and it was a much bigger theater. Maybe not the best theater to see a movie in, but it wasn't horrible. It's also playing at our big kind of Cineplex down here, the Scotiabank Theater, which is at this way, actually. No, this way. This way is where I'm facing. It's Polo Park Mall just down the road here. So it's playing at that theater as well. So I'm going to take my son and his girlfriend on Tuesday, we're going to go to see it. So goddamn good. If anybody out there sees it, please let me know what you thought about it. One of the things that stuck in our mind was there's so many Winnipeg specific jokes in here that I'm curious how they would play for other people. Like I said, it's getting a lot of very positive reviews and attention, so I imagine it's going over pretty well. He's a fan of Iranian cinema. He has some Iranian friends who helped him kind of write it and produce it, and they acted in it as well too. So it's kind of a real group effort from him and some of his really close friends. And they've kind of played it all over the world. Rankin did an interview with Denis Villeneuve on, it's up on YouTube. I'll try to remember to put a link in the video description here. I'll put a link to the trailer of Universal Language too. So go and check it out. Tell me what you think. I'm genuinely curious. Anybody out there who sees it, what you think from your perspective and what your thoughts are on it. So that's it for the promotional segment of this Sunday's episode. Let's get into what I read. Let's start at the back with a couple of things I briefly spoke about this afternoon with Rasa. Continuing on with the shout outs, huge shout out to Mr. Paulo Costa, the foreign correspondent, Paulo Costa. It was in an episode of the kind of Friday night hangouts that he has on Jared Osborne's channel. I think it must have been early December, maybe. And I don't remember what was being talked about. I have a feeling they were talking about Shade the Changing Man. And I don't know if this artist, I think the artist is Ribera, Julio Ribera. I can't remember if Julio Ribera had just passed away. I didn't look it up before I started the stream today. And then Christian Goddard is the writer on this one. So Paulo was talking about it, and he showed some samples. He found some stuff online and kind of shared it in the stream. And it looked really, really nice. So as I was kind of listening in, did a little search on eBay. There was quite a few copies up. I think there's 2 issues that have been translated into English from Dargo. I believe this was 1981 that this came out in English. I think it appeared in Heavy Metal magazine too. More than likely, I'd be surprised if it didn't. Have yet to dig through my issues to see if there's more of it in there. But I managed to track down a Canadian seller that had a pretty decent price on it. And then more importantly, the shipping was very, very reasonable. so it made it too cheap to be able to pass up. So I ordered it right away. So it sort of has, I can see sort of the relations of why I think we were talking about Shade the Changing Man. There's almost like a Madness vest kind of vibe to it. He's got this caterpillar on his shoulder, and he's searching time and space and dimensions for his lost love. And this caterpillar kind of taps into his psyche, and to find out what his desires are, and sort of molds the world around it to so he's able to fully immerse himself into this little adventure. This adventure takes place on a studio lot, and everybody starts embodying the characters that they're dressed up as. So we get, of course, we get Hitler, of course we get Napoleon, we get some knights, we get all sorts of business going on here as everybody kind of succumbs to this madness, and lives these roles. Pretty damn good story. There were so many moments that reminded me, it has that kind of flatness and color palette of Dave Gibbons in Watchmen. So I really like the look of this quite a bit. Pretty entertaining story. And then as we kind of deal with history, we come up against a pretty harrowing page here. Let me see if I can find it. I'll be able to find it, but I just, here we go. So starts realizing, as they kind of are searching for his lost love, they stumble across this this fenced off set of houses and smokestacks, and of course we all know what that means. So we get some very visceral, which really jumps out at you in the book, because everything has been kind of that very cartooniness. This is a heavy dose of pretty grim reality that we get hit with for just a couple of pages, but has quite an impact in the story itself. So The Vagabond of Limbo, What is Reality, Papa, is what this issue is called. So yeah, good old Dargo. I'd like to get the second one as well, but I do want to check my my heavy metal magazines to see if I have some of that stuff in there. It seems like every single year I dip my toes into Marvel and or DC, and try out some stuff to see if I can kind of get into the characters. Last year it was some issues of Doctor Strange. I think I actually lasted about 8 issues or something before I kind of gave up. So this one had, it was all polybagged up. It's the Red Band variant edition. So I gutted that poly bag. I sliced it open and cut it into shreds, and burned it in a pile as it should be, and released the comic from its poly bag hell prison. So in this world now, Elektra is taking on the mantle of Daredevil. I don't know kind of the backstory to it. I had kind of dipped in once or twice here and there, but never really stuck with any of it. This was an issue number 1. I was intrigued. I wanted to see what it was like. It was my pull list has dramatically shrunk, as there's been some things that I was reading that were just miniseries that are now done. And same with my daughter. My daughter had some books on the pull list as well too, but those were miniseries as well, and those are done. So tried a couple of books off the shelf. Another couple we'll see tonight. And I mean, there was nothing really that stood out. It wasn't horrible. I mean, the only thing is I just feel like I'm so lost, and they sort of kind of keep you in that mode, which is totally fine. It's their type of storytelling, going to slowly kind of bring you along with the story. But I don't know. I mean, I would take a look at a second issue just to see if it was interesting enough. Like I said, it wasn't horrible. The art wasn't my favorite thing, but I feel like I do this to myself every year, dip into this world, and usually get disgusted at some point and then not get it anymore. And there's usually a note in there where I either like grunt or groan or go, what a waste of money, or something like that. So we'll see what happens this time. Actually, there's a few books in here that I picked up just to try out. So we'll kind of keep on with that. Everybody is raving about Transformers. This is issue number 16. And I thought I'd give it a shot. Rasa is reading this as well, and I know a ton of people are reading this. I was saying to her this afternoon that at 204 Comics, where one of my pull lists is, or my main pull list is, he'll get in a few issues of new stuff. This issue number 16 of Transformers, he probably had a stack about this deep sitting on the shelf. So I take it that I'm hoping that that means it's really popular and everybody is buying it. Or maybe there was some variant cover that he could get if he ordered a certain amount. I don't know the backstory, but there was a large number of these issues there. So, and Ashley, one of the owners of the place, or the owner of the place, him and his wife, he was talking. I asked him if he's reading. He said, "Oh yeah," and he loves it as well. So I've heard nothing about good things. I was completely lost, but again, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to sample it to see if it was something I might be interested in. I know that they've done trades of the first kind of couple of story arcs, so I may kind of go backwards if I can find those for cheap. I may give them a shot. It's not kind of top on my list, but I'm curious enough. My brother was the big Transformers fan in the house. He had some amazing, the die-cast era Transformers. I don't know whatever happened to them, and I don't want to ask him. He had a bunch of stuff that got damaged when there was a flood at my parents' house after he had moved. He did some traveling around the world and stuff. And now he lives full-time in China and has for quite a long time at this point. But while he was traveling around, obviously he's not bringing everything with him. My parents' basement got flooded and his stuff was sitting on the ground. So I know he lost a lot of stuff, a lot of records, all sorts of things that he was really kind of crushed about. So I don't know whatever happened to his Transformers. But he was the guy who was loving this stuff. He went to see the movie when it came out in, I think somebody in the chat this afternoon said 1986. So I don't know, another one where I'm not sure. I may pick up another issue to kind of pick up some singles, or I may just abandon ship on the singles altogether and keep an eye out for the trades. This one caught my eye, and I'm reading it with Lillian. It's very kind of young reader friendly. This one. This is Welcome to the Maynard. Jay Bone doing the art on here. James Robinson storytelling. So there's 2 issues so far. Chris Samney cover there, and then a Jill Thompson cover on issue number 2. All artists that I love. It's this style that I love. This is a pretty fun book. It's definitely one that will go to Lillian. It can kind of live in her comic boxes. Just a real solid little story about this girl who I think they call them halfies. They kind of have half magical powers and then half human. She goes to be a bellhop at the Maynard, which only appears to people with magic powers. So because she's a halfie, she can kind of access this Maynard where she's working. Unbeknownst to us, I think we find out at the end of the issue. Before I say anything, let's just have a quick flip to the back here. Yada, yada, yada. Yes. Okay. So we do find out in this issue. So not much of a spoiler because it happens in kind of the halfway mark there. There's a detective in the Maynard because there's been some crimes. There's been some thefts. And the detective and our main character are working together. So she's undercover. Nobody knows that she's working for him. It's just a fun little book. There's a little bit of a mystery building up. There's more info that we get in issue number 2. Lillian was really digging it, so I think I'm going to keep picking this up for us, and we'll read it together. So that's a fun one. If you were a fan of the audio adventures, the Batman audio adventures, I think you'd enjoy this. Yeah, pretty great stuff. The other one that I tried out, I have a bunch of Copra stuff. Damien had sent me stuff at one point. I had bought some stuff myself too, some issues. I think I had bought the first trade at one point too. I think since I've traded that away. This is The Death of Copra by Michel Fiffe from Image. So I'm assuming, I can't remember what he says in the back. This one I read late, maybe early last week, or maybe it was last weekend. I don't remember when I read it, but he gives a little overview of kind of the story so far. One of the things that I do remember about all of the Copra comics that I had read, to be honest, the story never really interested me that much. I never really got into the storytelling. Not that it's bad, it just didn't really interest me too much. But what I do love is I'm absolutely in love with his illustration kind of style. He's got this really incredible, not well, I mean, I guess minimal is a good word for it. It has its moments that are very kind of minimal, you know, and it just works. It's a beautiful, beautiful style. He knows how to pick his panels. He knows how to use a page. He knows how to use color. He also knows how to use lettering. He does a little bit of, damn, his name was, I had his name, Lesniewski. He does a little bit of Lesniewski with the sound effects here, making them kind of a part, like they're in that space. Those words are living, existing in that space. It's really, really nice. So this is beautiful stuff. Like I said, Image Comics did some collections of the Copra stuff. I had thought that he left Image Comics and went back to self-publishing because of reasons I never really cared to dig into the whys or anything, but I thought that was the case. And then I see the Image imprint on this one. So I'm going to stick with this one because it's just fucking quality, man. The quality of the book is there as well, too. It feels kind of like the other Copras that I have from him. Yeah, so if you're a fan of, I don't know, I guess, was it Suicide Squad or something that he's a fan of, that this is sort of an homage to? If you like that stuff, I think you'd dig Copra. If you like weird indie comics, I think you'd dig this one as well, too, because, again, it's a beautiful one to look at. Not much to say about this one, so we'll quickly show this. This is Space Usagi, issue 2 of 3. I see issue 3 of 3. This is White Star Rising. Rasa talked about the 3rd issue today in our chat, or parts of it anyway. So not much to say. You know that Usagi is great. This one has been fun. It's really been like the characters of the Usagi universe cosplaying as Star Wars characters, and it's sort of like a Star Wars-ish kind of story. I could see it set in that universe pretty easily. So it's fun. Nothing really to say about that we all don't know already. Let's go here. Same thing with Kaya. Issue number 24. Great issue. Really fun. It's kind of hit its stride again. Rasa was saying that potentially Wes Craig, there might be some delays on this book because I think he's got some work with DC, which I think the delays might hurt a book like this. You kind of need, this one reads really good if you read it. I found, especially at the beginning, reading a bunch of issues at once was the way to go. It's one that it's a really quick read every single issue. It doesn't take you very long to kind of to fly through it. It's just a fun story, but beautiful, beautiful art in this as well. So we'll see if that delay has any ill effects. The Sickness is back. This is issue number 6 of The Sickness from Uncivilized Books. Let me pull it out of the Mylar, no big deal. Uncivilized Books is where this comes from. There is a collection out of the first volume that I'm still waiting for in the mail that I pre-ordered months and months and months ago. There is a subscription service to the second volume if you want through Uncivilized Books. There's a bunch of different options. Pardon me. There's a bunch of different options. It's a fun book, and it's for me mainly about Jenna Cha's art. Lonnie Nadler's storytelling is decent. I find that still, even after 6 issues, there's some things to kind of sink your teeth into as we're kind of getting used to the world, but I don't feel like we have any pressing kind of like we're moving towards something. It sort of seems to be meandering a little bit. The thing that impresses me about Jenna Cha's art is apparently this is all digital, and goes to show how much I know, which is fuck and all. Because it's amazing how much of it, to my eye, looks like it's pencil on paper. So she's really done a job. I mean, once you know that information, you can absolutely see some of that stuff. But for a reader like me, who I've never made a comic, I don't draw at this level, especially at this level. You know, it's stuff that I can't notice necessarily. Just an amazing style. I've been a fan of hers for a while now, and I'm looking forward to more and more of this stuff coming out. And the book smells good too. I don't know what kind of paper they use or what the deal is, but there's a very distinct smell to this book. Yeah, so there you go. So this is The Sickness #6. There will be another break. I don't know when. I don't know if they're going to do another 5 issues and then take a break. I think the plan was it 14 issues? I think is what their plan was. I don't remember now. But yeah, well worth picking up. And honestly, check out Uncivilized Books website and support these smaller publishers. These people are doing some amazing work, and they're putting in a lot of fucking hard work, and they deserve support. And with Diamond crashing and burning, RIP, we don't know that for a fact yet, but I don't know, man. I'm curious. Again, it's a side of the industry that I'm not super familiar with. Obviously, I understand what they do, what Diamond does. The part I don't understand is, at this stage of time, is it going to kind of crush the industry, or is it going to just create a lot of problems for 6, 8, 12 months before it sort of kind of works itself out? Penguin Random House is one of the other distributors out there. Is there more waiting on the sidelines? Like, again, from what I understand, Diamond isn't completely done. They filed for bankruptcy, and they filed for, what is it, Chapter 11 or something like that, where you can kind of get some money to pay off creditors and debt and still keep the doors open. I'm very curious to see what'll happen. Obviously, I'm way more concerned with comic shops and people who are kind of making a business around this. But I think that concern comes from, I don't know. I imagine it really depends on the shop. I would think somebody like Galaxy Comics, they probably make a substantial amount of their money off of new issues, ? And then maybe someplace like 204 Comics, I don't know what kind of percentage of sales they're making from new comics versus, like, he's a Lego distributor now. They have Pops. They have back issues. They have graphic novels and trade paperbacks. They offer pressing services. He buys lots of collections and sells kind of slabbed books and harder to find keys and things like that. So I don't know the breakup of his money that's coming in. I doubt it's 5% new comics, but I don't know if it's more than 50% either. So it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds for various people. Still in on Sanctuary, one of the best books I've read. I love this series. This is issue number 9 from part 2 of the series. I think there was 5 parts or volumes, and I think the last one had 13 issues or something like that. This is my Yakuza and politics soap opera book, basically. And this one really comes to a crashing halt, and you get boobs. This one comes to a real crashing halt as one of our main characters, is it Hojo? Can never remember his name properly. Hojo is his name. And if I can turn the fucking page here. Come on. Turns around and smiles, and bang, 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 bang. Hojo gets plugged. He gets plugged. So Hojo is the Yakuza character in this book, and his kind of brother, not by blood, but they grew up in Cambodia together, made this pact with each other. He's into the politics stream, and together they're going to kind of take over their own individual worlds and change Japan at its very core. They're looking to really leave their mark on Japan. So he gets plugged, and it was an absolute stunner. You know, you're really into a book when you're not really thinking too much about what's coming. I was just really into the story that it actually took me by surprise when he got shot. In hindsight, there's no surprise whatsoever, but some of these books you're just really into and kind of really moving page to page, really engrossed in the story. So an amazing final issue of this volume. The politician friend finds out about it and shows up. He can't show that they know each other, though, so they have a little hand sign that they make to each other to show that I'm still alive and everything is okay. So that's it there. We get those two shots and the final close-up on it, and he's kind of relieved to see that. And we get a little flashback of them as kids. So this is such a good book. There was trades that came out. I don't know how easy they are to find. I'm not having the easiest time finding. It's taken me a long time just to find the 2 volumes issues. I had to order some of them from Lone Star. They've got a bunch of them for sale on Lone Star. Obviously, I'd like to find these locally so I can pick them up instead of having to make a massive order. This is one that I would love to see get kind of a reprint. I'm curious if anybody is interested in this stuff. Ryoichi Ikigami is the artist on here. Sho Femimura is the writer. And I would love to see a new collection of this come out. I think this is one that a lot of people should be reading, and it feels a lot of this stuff with political intrigue and changing of the guard seems to be pretty relevant right now. You know, when you have kind of 2 generations clashing, even though mostly what's available in our politics is just a bunch of crusty old fucks. But there is really this universal story of generational shift, the young kind of coming into their own with their own ideas, and they're coming head to head with kind of the older generation who have worked their entire lives to get to this point and make the changes that they see fit, and their sort of stubbornness to let go of things. Yeah, really, really great stuff. Last but certainly not least, I have been waiting for this for a while. I pre-ordered this quite a while ago, and then, like I said, the postal strike brought everything to a standstill. This is Vacuum Decay issue number 7, and it's a fucking monster of a book. The price is the same, still only $10. You get a Harry Nordlinger cover and back cover, which is phenomenal. I love that cover so much. And I mean, no surprise to anybody, this is the best horror anthology I've probably ever read. I love every single issue. I love 95% of the artists in this stuff. This one has Nick Ruby, J-Ro Lantigua, Carmichael, Keenan Marshall Keller, Michael Filotico, Harry Nordlinger, and then your friend and mine, Mr. David Enos. Shout out to Colin for turning me on to David Enos. One of my favorites. It's so great to see another short story by him. So this first one here, Rot With Us, is by Nick Ruby. Nick Ruby is now also one of my favorites. This is a wild art style, and I think one of the things that this anthology has going for it is there's a real sense of love of kind of 80s independent comics, because there's a lot of that. It's black and white, first of all, but there's a lot of that sort of scratchy or unique style. There's a lot of amazing page layouts. Like, that is so great. And there's some genuinely disturbing stories in here. They kind of run the gamut of more absurd, but there is some that are genuinely unsettling. The snuff tape was pretty damn great too, about this VHS tape, this group of friends who are really into finding these VHS tapes that have these kind of pseudo snuff type elements to them. Growing up and doing tape trading myself and dealing with a lot of live shows on VHS tape, there is a certain sense of when you used to get these VHS tapes. Like I remember getting, everything from G.G. Allen performances on VHS tapes to Man Behind the Sun on a VHS tape, if you know that movie. And it really does have this feel of, I have something that I shouldn't have. It's a bootleg of a VHS of like a movie or live shows on a VHS tape, that there's just something about that feels like you shouldn't have this. You shouldn't be seeing this. So that kind of takes that premise and goes even further with it. Another guy who's quickly my favorite is this Carmichael. And this was the story that unsettled me the most in this one, especially as a father. This one had it was a harrowing story. I gotta say, it really kind of hit me by the end of it. I won't do any spoilers, but there's just some samples of it. The one that worked the least for me was Keenan Marshall Keller's The Comic Book That Kills. It was funny. It had some really great moments. The basic premise is these two young kids who are big comic book fans, and they're looking for kind of like what would be called kind of the outlaw comics. So they're looking to get into the basement to dig through the back issue bins and really uncover some shit, like really find and dig for some stuff. And one of the things that he does is he kind of mocks kind of the big two comics that are coming out, and kind of does that through the whole strip. There's just a litany of Batman titles and other titles at the bottom of the page. Hello, Damien. No, I do not have a store that carries it. The place, there's the one place in town, the Fantasy Club Books. This is something like he would probably carry, because he does get a lot of stuff that would be kind of carried at like Domino Books, for example. He does a pretty good job of bringing stuff in. I don't think I've ever seen any issues of Vacuum Decay there. So when I've ordered this stuff, I've ordered straight from Harry himself. I bought some original art from him. I got the Vacuum Decay shirt. Actually got the original art for the Vacuum Decay shirt. But now I have all 7 issues. And like I said, it's a stellar one. So it's one that I don't mind spending the extra money to get it shipped to me, because it's that strong of a comic. I love every single issue. So yeah, this one, it just kind of had this comedic thing. It's not that it was a bad story. I just personally didn't think it kind of fit in with the rest of the comic. There's nothing wrong with a little lighthearted interlude by any stretch, but I think I come to Vacuum Decay to be kind of unsettled and to see some of these artists doing some things, maybe pushing some boundaries. And then what else did we have? We get into the Harry Nordlinger stuff here, which is a great story. I really like his style a lot. He's got a very unique voice. And last but not least, the one that I was waiting for, that I was eagerly anticipating, was the David Enos. Oh, look at this, Ryan. Hello, Ryan. Holy shit, it's my favorite issue so far, and definitely the longest. Yeah, it is the thickest issue, and it's amazing that he was able to keep it at that same price. I love David Enos. Again, shout out to Colin Blanchett for turning me on to David Enos. Whispered Words and Batman is a Lost in the Woods are the 2 books that Colin turned me on to. Whispered Words, I've probably sat and read that a dozen times. I love that book. There's a certain something that he puts into his storytelling that I just can't put my finger on. When I've talked about him in the past, I'm a big fan of Jean Rollin, kind of this cinema fantastique that he was a part of, this sort of like waking dream. There's a certain atmosphere of Jean Rollin films that I feel like David Enos sort of captures in his comics too. They're sort of, in this one especially, this one feels like I got to read it a couple of more times. There seem to be these kind of disjointed moments from panel to panel that, again, I don't know how people do it. It really just speaks to having a very individual vision about what you want to put onto a page. In this one, he really sticks to this 9-panel grid as well too. It's great. His art style, I think his art style is beautiful. I really, really love it. He's another guy I would love to own some original art from. I had reached out to him at one point on Instagram, and got zero response, which is totally fine. It's not a diss by any stretch, but I would love to own some original art from David. And again, that's me assuming that he does things with pen and paper, basically, because it could be a Jenna Cha type of thing where it's not, although it really looks like it's hand done. Can't say enough about this anthology. It's you can't go wrong with any issue. I think that this one, like Ryan is saying, because it's the thickest one, I think you get more bang for your buck. There's really, really great stories in this one. But honestly, pick up any single issue to give it a taste. But be ready for some kind of unsettling stuff. I mean, your mileage may vary. It depends on what you're used to. But yeah, there you go. The David Eno strip was the highlight for me too. Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, the Carmichael strip about the father, about the family, I think was the highlight for me. Only in as it kind of took me like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? Like it had that kind of effect on me. And I'm really, really digging his art. There's not a bad artist in here. Let's just say that there's not a bad artist in any of those issues. So. And I think that is about it. Yes, I haven't read anything from over there. That's it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stick around. I'm going to have a little bit of an outro. I've been playing with this thing called the cathotomer, and I've created some pieces. So I will leave you with this. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.